More closely overhead, midday situation, the moon takes on more of a brown color, it becomes almost a rosy-looking place, a fairly friendly place. So that from dawn through midday through dusk, you run the whole gamut of it. It starts out very forbidding, becomes friendly, and then becomes forbidding again as the sun dissipates.
Well, I think it requires some very pinpoint determination of the orbit that the vehicle is in before it begins powered descent, and this requires extreme care. This is what defines the error ellipse, where we might possibly land having targeted for the center. Now, the ability to be able to control where you are requires that you be able to identify features. And of course, in our particular of significant features as possible to give us as smooth a terrain. Now, in any area like this, there are always certain identifying features that you can come out, certain patterns of craters. And to the extent that this can be used, if the crew sees that they are not going exactly toward the pre-planned point, they can begin to
and more on the landing. Did at any time you consider an abort while you were getting the alarms and so forth?
Well, I safely do so, and as soon as program alarms, computer alarms manifest themselves, why you realize that you have a possible abort situation to contend with, but our procedure throughout
the vehicle down in the same way that it was programmed to do. The only thing that was missing during this time period is that we did not have some of the displays on the computer keyboard, and we had to make several entries at this time in order to clear up that area.
What would be to your private lives in the years ahead?
I wish I knew the answer.
But I think the landings of the type that are presently considered for the next number of flights are appropriate to the conclusions that we reached as a result of both our descent work and work on the surface. That we are able to investigate the variety of types of landing sites that they hope to accomplish.
I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may. When you were carrying out that incredible moonwalk, did you find that the surface was equally firm anywhere, or were there harder and softer spots that you could detect? And secondly, when you looked up at the sky, could you actually see the stars and the solar corona in spite of the glare?
In rather flat regions, the footprint would penetrate perhaps a half an inch or sometimes only a quarter of an inch and gave a very firm response. In other regions near the edges of these craters, we could find that the foot would sink down maybe 2, 3, possibly 4 inches. And in the slope, of course, the various edges of the footprint might go on up to 6 or 7 inches, and compacting this material would tend to produce a slight sideways motion as it was compacted on the material underneath it. So we feel that you cannot always tell just by looking at the terrain what the exact resistance will be as your foot sinks into a point of firm contact. So one must be quite cautious in moving around in this rough terrain.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Neil, you were a little bit concerned, you said, about stubbing your toe at the point of landing because the surface was obscured by dust. Do you see any way around that kind of problem for future landings on the moon?
I think the simulations that we have at the present time to enable a pilot to understanding the problems of a lunar landing, that is a simulator and the various lunar landing training facilities and trainers that we have will do that job sufficiently well. Above that, I think it's just a matter of pilot experience. And of course, the a little bit of dispersions in the maneuvers, such as the DLI burn on the backside of that ignition, and there is no way of compensating until you get to final phase for